Colombia accuses U.S. of war crimes after Caribbean strike. Colombian President Gustavo Petro on Monday accused the United States of committing war crimes after a U.S. military strike destroyed a suspected drug-running vessel in the Caribbean. In an exclusive interview, Petro said recent attacks have killed civilians and risk escalating regional tensions, underscoring his broader criticism of Washington's counter-narcotics strategy. The Trump administration has intensified maritime interdictions since September, carrying out multiple strikes in the Caribbean and Pacific. U.S. officials argue the operations target narco-traffickers and are lawful under the laws of armed conflict, while critics question the legal basis and urge greater transparency about casualties and targeting. Amid the clash, Colombia recalled its ambassador to Washington and sought to manage the fallout through high-level contacts. On Monday evening, Petro met with the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires in Bogotá to discuss the crisis. President Trump has accused Colombia of failing to curb cocaine production and has threatened tariffs and reductions in U.S. assistance tied to counter-narcotics cooperation. Both governments say they want to avoid further escalation while continuing cooperation against trafficking networks.
For the record, I was just in Colombia and talked to hundreds of people, and everyone, literally everyone in Colombia hates their president and openly admits he was the worst mistake in their history, and that says a lot.
Colombian president was put in power to destroy Colombia. He is doing what he was placed there to do.
Colombia's threat is like a chihuahua barking at a Doberman. Can't blame Mexico, Colombia, and Venezuela. Their government is afraid while also sleeping with cartels.
Finally, a POTUS that will openly say how corrupt governments like Mexico, Colombia, and Venezuela are the root cause of the cartels.
Trump administration sanctions Russian oil firms, cancels Putin meeting. On October 22, 2025, the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control designated Rosneft Oil Company and Lukoil, Russia's two largest oil producers, along with numerous subsidiaries, citing Moscow's refusal to pursue a credible peace process to end the war in Ukraine. The action, taken under Executive Order 14,024, blocks their property and interests in property under U.S. jurisdiction and extends to entities 50% or more owned by the designated firms. Treasury also warned foreign financial institutions that facilitating significant transactions for these parties could trigger secondary sanctions. Limited general licenses authorize short, time-bound wind-down activities and certain narrowly scoped transactions. The announcement came the same week President Donald Trump canceled a planned summit with President Vladimir Putin, saying talks lacked sufficient progress. Officials stressed the measures are intended to constrain Kremlin revenue derived from energy exports. Oil prices rose roughly 5% on the day of the announcement, highlighting potential market effects even as detailed impacts remain uncertain. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington stands ready to escalate pressure should Russia continue its aggression.
GOP equals greed over people. If you're an adult, you act like an adult and think above all else. Stop hurting innocent people.
Russia already planned for this, that's why they have got a shadow fleet of oil tankers shipping oil around the world. I'm pretending Putin told Trump to sanction him.
Give him a break, guys. He just settled the war between Narnia and Oz. We don't import oil from Russia as it is. This is meaningless.
Sanctions include no more Taylor Swift new release in Russia.
That'll really show him. Is it for real this time, or just lip service?
Trump beef import plan faces opposition from ranchers, lawmakers. President Donald Trump's plan to curb record U.S. beef prices by expanding imports from Argentina has drawn sharp resistance from ranchers and Republican lawmakers, even as the administration argues the move will ease grocery costs. The policy centers on increasing Argentina's low tariff access under a beef tariff rate quota, while the United States pursues a broader effort to rebuild the historically depleted domestic cattle herd. Producers in Nebraska and across the plains warn that greater imports could destabilize cash markets and undercut recovery after years of drought-driven herd liquidation. Agricultural economists add that Argentina's small share of U.S. supply means any grocery price relief is likely to be limited. Industry groups also urge stronger biosecurity, citing concerns such as the New World screwworm and other foreign animal diseases. The initiative follows a U.S. economic stabilization package for Argentina that includes a $20 billion currency swap and a proposed, still to be finalized tranche of private sector financing. U.S. banks are reportedly seeking collateral for any additional lending, underscoring the plan's unresolved details.
Now he's screwing Texas cattle ranchers? This guy non-stop BS. He won't hesitate to sell out his own country and the very people who were foolish enough to vote for him. Well, he destroyed the farmers, now he wants to destroy the cattle ranchers too. He's a traitor.
And they will still vote for Trump. It's insane.
That's your president, farmers. He blocked you from selling beans, and the people that took your sale, he gave them a 20B bonus for being a friend of a friend. American farmers, welcome to the administration you voted for. He's literally destroying the White House, canceling infrastructure in major economic corridors and sending our tax money to other countries. Crazy that PPL are excited about this.
The plan is to bankrupt ranchers and farmers, then steal their land.
Are we supposed to feel sorry for them?
He is going to bankrupt them so corporate can buy up their farms. Paying $40 billion to Argentina and trying to pay himself $230 million. Do people really need any more evidence at how corrupt this guy is?
Russian airstrikes kill 6 in Ukraine after Trump cancels summit. At least 6 people, including children, were killed and around 29 injured in a major overnight Russian air assault on Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities, President Volodymyr Zelensky said. The strikes hit a high-rise in the capital, damaged a kindergarten in Kharkiv, and targeted energy facilities across multiple regions, triggering emergency power cuts and rolling outages. Zelensky argued the barrage shows that international pressure on Moscow remains insufficient. Hours earlier, the White House confirmed that President Donald Trump would not meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in the immediate future, shelving a summit previously expected in Hungary and citing the risk of a wasted meeting. In apparent response, Ukraine said it launched Storm Shadow missiles at an industrial complex in Russia's Bryansk region. Independent verification of the strike's impact was limited. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said allies are working to change Putin's calculus through sustained pressure and sanctions. Zelensky is expected in London this week for a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing to coordinate further support.
The 2 weeks meeting didn't happen? Weird. Who could have predicted that?
President Trump needs to stay strong against Putin. He's a snake and we have to be careful. The art of being played by Putin again.
Putin don't want to hear nothing Trump got to say.
If Russia is concerned about the possibility of missiles flying into its territory, it should perhaps consider not flinging missiles into someone else's territory.
Putin doesn't want meetings. Putin wants Ukraine.
Give Ukraine all the tomahawks now.
Donald's is so afraid of Putin, yet he yells at Zelensky, tells me who's the real puppet master. Putin is. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. Donald Trump, March 4, 2023.
IOC bans international sports events in Indonesia, halts 2036 Olympic bid. The International Olympic Committee this week advised global sports federations not to stage events in Indonesia and froze discussions on the country's 2036 Olympic ambitions after Jakarta refused visas for Israeli athletes due to compete at the Artistic Gymnastics World Championships. The IOC said the stance will remain until binding assurances are provided that all eligible athletes can participate without discrimination, in line with the Olympic Charter. Indonesia's senior legal affairs minister, Yusril Iza Mahendra, cited public order concerns and objections from religious groups in defending the decision. The National Gymnastics Federation confirmed the Israeli team would not attend. Critics said the move violates neutrality principles in sport and unfairly penalizes athletes. While the IOC's step is not a legal ban, it signals serious consequences for Indonesia's international hosting prospects and Olympic bid. The Israeli Gymnastics Federation condemned the exclusion, and athlete representatives urged swift guarantees of equal access. Indonesia's Olympic Committee has been invited to further talks to clarify how future events could proceed under non-discriminatory conditions.
Israel is cool too. It's small but its influence is extraordinary.
Let them think, all this time they haven't even been using their brains. Don't be sad if Indonesia isn't an Olympic host. Maybe just an Olympic furniture venue.
Exactly right. This country needs to learn to think.
All sports are banned from being held in Indonesia.
Good, saves the budget. If the Olympics are held in Indonesia, it may save money, but it will also become a breeding ground for officials' corruption here.
Indonesia has been blocked again and again because of the mix of politics and sports, and it's still relentless.
Very striking. The IOC asked its member international federations not to stage sports competitions in Indonesia.
I don't care at all, whatever.
Don't be sad, we've had an Olympic mattress since way back.
Trump cancels Putin summit, imposes sanctions amid Ukraine conflict. President Donald Trump has shelved plans for a Budapest summit with Vladimir Putin, saying he would not pursue a wasted meeting, as Washington tightened pressure on Moscow. The U.S. Treasury designated Rosneft and Lukoil, Russia's two largest oil producers, blocking their property under U.S. jurisdiction and prohibiting U.S. persons from most transactions with the companies and their majority-owned affiliates. Treasury also warned foreign financial institutions that facilitating significant dealings with designated parties could expose them to sanctions, while limited wind-down authorizations remain in place. The moves coincided with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte's visit to the White House for consultations on sustaining Allied support to Ukraine and coordinating further pressure on Russia. In Brussels, European Union members approved a 19th sanctions package targeting Russian energy revenues and additional enablers of the war effort. The Kremlin continues to reject a ceasefire on terms acceptable to Kyiv. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky traveled to Norway and Sweden for talks on defense and energy assistance as Russian strikes persisted, causing fresh civilian casualties.
This calculation will not work out for the West. India and China will continue to buy Russian oil.
Sanctions bring zero, so keep sanctioning.
Real talk, how many more sanctions do you want to impose? There shouldn't actually be anything left to sanction.
Honestly, this has nothing to do with war anymore, but it will be a trade war for oil and gas, so that the EU can buy everything from the Americans.
USA oil boycott, but buying uranium from Russia for billions of dollars.
Away with Zelensky, off to prison, Ukraine needs peace.
Trump rides a roller coaster while Putin sits on the express train.
Return, burial and rubble. The long road to recovery in Gaza. Gaza authorities said that on Wednesday they would bury 54 unidentified Palestinians returned by Israel under the current ceasefire, after bodies were displayed at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis for attempted identification. Officials alleged signs of torture, field execution, and mutilation on many remains and called for an international investigation. Forensic teams said identification is hampered by the condition of the bodies and a severe shortage of laboratory equipment. The transfer comes amid extensive physical devastation. United Nations briefings estimate that roughly 84% of buildings across Gaza have been destroyed, with localized destruction reaching about 92% in some northern areas. UN agencies and partners assess that between 55 and 60 million tons of debris must be cleared, a process expected to take years. Civil defense crews say thousands of people remain missing under rubble and that operations are slowed by the lack of heavy machinery. Local authorities and humanitarian groups contend that restrictions on bringing large equipment into the strip have compounded delays, while UN teams work to reopen roads and expand debris removal.
Horrific. History will judge the lunatic.
Netanyahu is a threat to the people of Israel, must be arrested and thrown into his own jail. Israel and all those who participated in this war and siege must be disarmed and internationally prosecuted. God have mercy on the martyrs of the people of Gaza.
I ask Allah, the Avenger, to hasten his vengeance, inflict double the torment on the oppressors, and heal the breasts of believers. The strange thing is that despite all these crimes, instead of holding the occupier and the criminal accountable, those who call themselves mediators seek to blackmail the victim and deprive him of the right to resist the aggression. What kind of logic is this? And do not think that Allah is oblivious to what the unjust do, but only delays them for a day when the eyes will see. May Allah be our guide and our agent.
It is not the first time abuse or other crimes are reported, and it just demonstrates the brutality and inhumanity of this unhinged state. Everybody should take action against them and not let them go on with impunity. Free Palestine. Ignore the Hasbara bunch, they are losing any argument to justify Israel's actions.
Shame on Israel, they will have to pay the price. It's ironic that Netanyahu and Hitler will occupy the same chapter in the history books.
Kushner urges Palestinian aid. Qatar condemns Gaza violations, strikes. U.S. senior advisor Jared Kushner said on 60 Minutes that Israel must improve Palestinians' lives if it seeks full regional acceptance. In Doha, Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani told the Shura Council that Israel has violated the ceasefire and restricted humanitarian access, renewing calls for accountability after the September 9 strikes on Qatar. Humanitarian deliveries to Gaza remain far below need. The World Food Programme reports that current food inflows are only a fraction of the roughly 2,000 metric tons required daily, with recent levels hovering well under that target. Aid agencies also note bottlenecks at crossing points and distribution constraints inside Gaza. Mediation efforts continue under Qatari auspices. Israeli columnist Gideon Levy argued that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would only fully open entry points under strong U.S. pressure, as senior U.S. officials consult with Israeli leaders. Hamas has said it agreed to return 28 captive bodies. Authorities report that 15 have been recovered so far, while the remainder are believed to be buried under rubble or located in areas that remain inaccessible.
Where are the international forces that pledged to put law and order in Gaza? I thought by now the Arab and Muslim countries should have sent in peacekeeping force in there rather than all this talk without action.
Israel is zero without the US. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. Thomas Jefferson.
Netanyahu is worse than Hitler.
The time of condemnation is long past. Action, military action. Hamas released all the living hostages. Do you think they won't release bodies? All these ceasefire violation is an excuse for Israel to continue genocide in Gaza. It's genocide, it's not war, it's more dangerous than war.
Action is better than words.
Do something instead of saying,